Once upon a time, in the lively village of Umuja, lived a hardworking man named Kofi. He was known throughout the community for his diligence and integrity. Kofi was married to Amina, a beautiful and supportive woman, admired for her kindness and strength. They lived in a modest home, and their love was the envy of many in the village. Despite Kofi's dedication to his work, he had recently lost his job due to circumstances beyond his control. The loss weighed heavily on him, making him feel inadequate and frustrated. As weeks passed without any new employment opportunities, the strain on their relationship grew. One sunny morning, Amina decided to go to the local market to buy some essentials. Using her savings, she bought deodorant, soap, and body cream for herself and Kofi, hoping it would lift his spirits. When Amina returned home, Kofi saw the purchases, and his frustration boiled over. "Amina, how could you spend money on such frivolous things when we are struggling?" he shouted, his voice filled with anger and insecurity. Amina, taken aback by his reaction, tried to calm him down. "Kofi, I bought these with my own money. I just wanted to make things a bit easier for us." But Kofi, blinded by his anger, didn't listen. "You embarrass me with your reckless spending. We can't afford this," he yelled, his voice echoing through their small home. Neighbors glanced over, concerned about the commotion. The argument escalated quickly. Amina, hurt and frustrated, defended her actions. "Kofi, I did this for us. We need to take care of ourselves, even during tough times. You know I would never spend our money carelessly." Kofi's face contorted with rage. "You think this is about the money? It's about you not understanding our situation. We are barely making it through each day, and you go and spend money on luxuries." Amina, holding back tears, replied softly, "These are not luxuries, Kofi. They are necessities. I wanted to do something nice for us. Why can't you see that?" But Kofi's pride and frustration had clouded his reason. Feeling emasculated and helpless, he directed all his anger at Amina. "You think I need your pity? I don't need you to take care of me like a child." Amina, now with tears streaming down her face, stood her ground. "Kofi, I am not trying to pity you. I love you, and I want us to be happy, even in these hard times. We are a team. We should support each other." The argument marked a turning point in their relationship. Kofi stormed out of the house, leaving Amina alone with her thoughts and tears. She sat down, feeling the weight of their struggles pressing on her shoulders. She wondered how they had come to this point and what the future held for them. As Kofi walked through the village, his mind raced with anger and guilt. Deep down, he knew that Amina was only trying to help, but his pride wouldn't let him admit it. The villagers, who once admired the couple's love and unity, now whispered among themselves, wondering what had happened to the once happy pair. Amina spent the rest of the day reflecting on their situation. She knew Kofi was struggling with his self-worth, and that his anger was a manifestation of his frustration. She resolved to stand by him, but also realized she needed to take care of herself. As the sun set over Umuja, casting a warm orange glow over the village, Amina and Kofi were both lost in their thoughts, each contemplating the future of their relationship. The heavy argument had revealed deep-seated issues that they would need to address if they were to find happiness again. This incident marked the beginning of a downward spiral in their relationship, one that would test their love, resilience, and the strength of their bond. The next day, Kofi returned home late in the evening, his face set in a grim expression. He barely acknowledged Amina as he walked through the door. Amina, having spent the entire day reflecting on their argument, greeted him cautiously. "Kofi, "Can we talk?" she asked gently. "There is nothing to talk about," he snapped, brushing past her, his anger from the previous day still simmering. Amina, determined to reach out to him, followed him into their small living room. "Kofi, please, we need to work through this together. I love you, and I'm here for you." Kofi turned sharply, his eyes blazing with fury. "You think love will put food on the table? You think your pity will get me my job back?" he shouted. "You don't understand what it's like to be me, to feel useless and helpless every single day." Amina flinched at his harsh words but stood her ground. "I do understand, Kofi. We are in this together. I am not your enemy." The tension in the room was palpable. Kofi's fists clenched and unclenched, his body shaking with suppressed rage. "I can't stand this anymore," he muttered before storming out of the house again. Amina watched him leave, her heart heavy with a mix of fear and sadness. She knew Kofi was struggling, but his constant outbursts were taking a toll on her. She felt trapped between her love for him and the need to protect herself from his anger. Days turned into weeks, and the situation only worsened. Kofi's frustration grew, and with it, his temper. He began to isolate himself, spending long hours wandering through the village, avoiding Amina and their home. One afternoon, Amina's childhood friend, Fatima, arrived in Umuja. Fatima had always been a source of joy and support for Amina, and her visit was a welcome distraction. Fatima suggested that they go shopping, hoping to lift Amina's spirits. "Let's get out of the house for a bit," Fatima said with a warm smile. "It'll do you good." Amina hesitated, worried about Kofi's reaction if he found out she had spent more money. But Fatima insisted, and eventually Amina agreed. The two friends spent the afternoon laughing and catching up, momentarily forgetting the troubles back home. Fatima bought Amina a beautiful dress as a gift, and for a brief moment, Amina felt a sense of normalcy return. When Amina returned home, she found Kofi waiting for her, his face a mask of fury. "Where have you been?" he demanded. "I went out with Fatima," Amina replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "She wanted to cheer me up." Kofi scoffed. "So now you're spending more money we don't have. Do you enjoy making me look like a fool?" Amina's heart sank. "I didn't spend any money, Kofi. Fatima bought me a dress. She just wanted to make me happy." Kofi's eyes narrowed. "Happy? You think a dress will make everything better? You're just as selfish as everyone else." The argument quickly escalated. Kofi's rage was uncontrollable, and he began to hurl accusations at Amina, each one more hurtful than the last. "You want to destroy me. You want to see me fail. You're no better than the rest of them." Amina, desperate to calm him down, tried to reason with him. "Kofi, please, I'm trying to help us. We need to support each other, not tear each other apart." But Kofi was beyond reason. He grabbed the dress Fatima had given Amina and tore it to shreds. "This is what your happiness means to me," he shouted, his voice echoing through the small house. Amina stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. The man she had once loved so deeply was now a stranger to her, consumed by anger and resentment. That night, Amina made a decision. She couldn't continue living like this, constantly walking on eggshells around Kofi. She knew she needed to find a way to protect herself and regain her strength. As she lay in bed, listening to Kofi's heavy breathing beside her, Amina vowed to take control of her life. The road ahead would be difficult, but she was determined to find her way back to happiness, with or without Kofi. The tension between them had reached a boiling point, and Amina knew that something had to change before it was too late. The next steps she would take would not only shape her future, but also determine the fate of their relationship. Inside Kofi and Amina's home, the atmosphere was anything but warm. Amina woke up early, determined to make a change. She had spent the night planning her next steps, and knew she had to act before the situation deteriorated further. Kofi was still asleep when Amina left the house. She decided to find solace in the evening service at their local church, hoping that a moment of spiritual reflection might offer her some clarity and peace. When the service ended, Amina lingered for a few moments, speaking with the pastor and a few friends. She felt lighter, more hopeful, as she made her way back home. But as she approached the front door, her heart began to race. She knew that Kofi would be waiting for her. Sure enough, Kofi was sitting in the living room, his face a mask of barely contained fury. He stood up abruptly as she walked in, his eyes blazing with accusation. "Where have you been, Amina?" he demanded, his voice cold and sharp. Amina took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I went to church for the evening service, Kofi. I needed some time to think and pray." Kofi's eyes narrowed, and he let out a bitter laugh. "Church? Really? Or were you out with some man, trying to find someone who can give you the money I can't?" Amina's heart sank. "Kofi, that's not true. I was at church. You know I wouldn't do that." But Kofi was beyond reason. "Don't lie to me, Amina. I know you've been seeing other men. You think I don't notice? You think I don't know that you're out there trying to buy more useless things with their money because I can't provide for you?" Amina shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "Kofi, please, I'm telling you the truth. I went to church. I would never betray you like that." Kofi's anger only grew. He grabbed his phone and started dialing a number. "If you think you can fool me, think again. I'm calling your family right now. They need to know what kind of woman you really are." "Kofi, no," Amina pleaded, but it was too late. Kofi had already connected the call. "Hello? Yes, it's Kofi. You need to come over here right now. Your daughter has just come back from some man's house, and I can't take it anymore," Kofi shouted into the phone. Amina's heart pounded in her chest as she heard her family's concerned voices on the other end of the line. She felt a deep sense of humiliation and fear, knowing that Kofi's accusations would cause a rift between her and her loved ones. Minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Amina's parents, Kwame and Adwoa, along with her brother, Juma, walked in, their faces etched with worry and confusion. "What's going on here, Kofi?" Kwame demanded, looking between his daughter and son-in-law. Kofi pointed a finger at Amina. "Your daughter has been out with other men, disrespecting our marriage. She thinks she can do whatever she wants because I'm not working." Kwame turned to Amina, his eyes filled with concern. "Amina, is this true?" Amina's voice shook as she replied, "No, Papa, it's not true. I went to church. I was praying for guidance, for help with our marriage. I would never do what Kofi is accusing me of." "Kofi, are you sure about this? Amina has always been faithful and devoted. Why would she suddenly change?" Kofi's anger flared again. "You think you know her better than I do? She's been out all evening, probably with some man who can give her the things I can't." Juma stepped in, his voice firm but calm. "Kofi, you need to calm down. Accusing Amina without proof isn't going to solve anything. We need to get to the bottom of this calmly. But Kofi was beyond listening. I've had enough of this. She needs to leave. I can't have her here if she's going to disrespect me like this, he shouted, his voice echoing through the room. Kofi's anger seemed to grow with each passing moment. Her infidelity is the reason I lost my job. How can I focus when my wife is out there betraying me? Amina's eyes widened in shock. Kofi, that's not true. You know that's not true. I have never betrayed you. Her parents, Kwame and Adwoa, looked on with a mixture of concern and disbelief. Kwame stepped forward, trying to calm the situation. Kofi, please, let's talk about this rationally. Accusing Amina without proof will not help anyone. But Kofi was beyond reason. You don't understand? She's been seeing other men, flaunting it in my face because she knows I can't provide for her right now. And now I've lost my job because of the stress and distraction she's caused. Juma could no longer stay silent. Kofi, you need to stop shouting at my sister like that. She doesn't deserve this. Kofi turned to Juma, his anger now directed at him. You think you can come into my house and tell me how to handle my wife? You don't know anything about what's been going on here. Juma stepped forward, his fists clenched at his sides. I know that you're treating her unfairly. Amina has always been loyal and supportive. You're letting your frustration cloud your judgment. The tension in the room was palpable. Amina's mother moved closer to Amina, placing a protective arm around her daughter. Kofi, we're taking Amina with us tonight. This isn't the way to handle things. Kofi's face contorted with rage. Fine, take her. But don't expect me to welcome her back if she's going to continue this behavior. Amina, feeling overwhelmed, tried to hold back her tears. Kofi, please, I'm not doing what you're accusing me of. I just want us to work through this together. But Kofi turned away, his voice cold. It's too late for that, Amina. You've made your choice. As Amina gathered a few belongings, Juma kept a close eye on Kofi, ready to intervene if necessary. The air was thick with unspoken words and shattered trust. Finally, Amina turned to her parents, her face pale and drawn. Let's go. As they left the house, Juma cast one last warning look at Kofi. You better get your act together, Kofi. This isn't the way to treat your wife. Kofi didn't respond, his anger simmering just below the surface. The drive back to her parents' house was silent, each of them lost in their thoughts. Amina felt a mixture of relief and sorrow. She had hoped to find a way to save her marriage, but now she wasn't sure if that was possible. When they arrived, Amina went to her old room, the familiar surroundings offering a small measure of comfort. Back at the house, Kofi paced the living room, his anger slowly giving way to a gnawing sense of regret. He knew deep down that his accusations were unfounded, but his pride wouldn't let him admit it. Alone in the silence, he wondered if he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. The next morning, Kofi woke up still upset from the previous night. He lay in bed for a while, his stomach growling with hunger. He had always been used to freshly cooked meals, but with Amina gone, there was nothing to eat. He had no money and no idea how to fend for himself. As the hours passed and his hunger grew, Kofi began to realize just how much he had messed up the previous night. Kofi knew he needed to get Amina back, but his pride wouldn't allow him to apologize directly. Instead, he decided to pretend he was very sick. Hoping to elicit her pity, he called his neighbor, Jabari, to help. Jabari, please, I need your help. I'm very sick. Can you go to Amina's parents' house and tell her I need her?" Jabari, who had always been sympathetic to Kofi's plight, agreed and hurried over to Amina's parents' house. When he arrived, he found Amina and her family sitting in the living room, discussing the events of the previous night. "Amina," Jabari said, slightly out of breath, "Kofi is very sick. He asked me to come and get you. He needs you." Amina felt a pang of concern despite everything that had happened. She looked at her parents, who nodded encouragingly. "Go and see him, Amina. Make sure he's all right," Kwame said reluctantly. Amina agreed and followed Jabari back to the house. When she arrived, she found Kofi lying on the couch, looking pale and weak. "Kofi, what's wrong?" Amina asked, her voice filled with concern. Kofi looked up at her, trying to muster a weak smile. "I don't know, Amina. I just feel so terrible. Please, can you help me?" Amina's heart softened, and she quickly went to work, preparing some food and making sure Kofi was comfortable. As the day went on, Kofi's made-up conditions seemed to improve, and by evening, he was sitting up and talking with Amina. They discussed their relationship and the misunderstandings, and although Kofi never actually apologized, Amina felt a sense of relief that they were reconciling. She hoped that things would get better from here. However, life at home became even more difficult for Amina. She began to walk on eggshells around Kofi, trying to avoid anything that might set off his temper. She went out of her way to make him happy, buying him new clothes, paying for his haircut, and providing everything they needed in the house with her meager salary. Despite her efforts, Kofi's behavior didn't improve. Whenever Amina came home late from work, Kofi would start shouting and accusing her of seeing other men. "Where have you been, Amina? Who are you with? You think I don't know what you're up to?" Amina tried to explain that she was working late to provide for them, but Kofi refused to listen. The accusations and shouting matches became a regular occurrence, and Amina felt increasingly trapped in her own home. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Amina arrived home to find Kofi in a foul mood. "You're late again. What excuse do you have this time? Which man were you with?" Amina, exhausted and frustrated, tried to remain calm. "Kofi, I was at work. I'm doing everything I can to support us. Please, you have to trust me." Kofi's face twisted with anger. "Trust you? How can I trust you when you're never here? You're always running off, leaving me alone. Do you even care about this marriage?" Amina felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Of course I care, Kofi, but I can't keep living like this. I need you to trust me and support me too." But Kofi wasn't ready to listen. "Save your excuses, Amina. I'm tired of hearing them." Feeling defeated, Amina went to their bedroom, tears streaming down her face. She knew she couldn't go on like this much longer, but she didn't know what to do. She had hoped their reconciliation would bring peace, but it seemed to have only made things worse. As she lay in bed that night, Amina decided to plead with her manager to see if they could employ her husband and place him in another office branch. She hoped that if it worked, it would make things better at home. Please stay tuned for part 2 of this story, which will be coming soon. We will learn what happened when things turned around for this family and how unpredictable people can be. Keep smiling, and until the next time, goodbye for now.